Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Loudguns and today we're going to take a quick look at refreshing our rock mining guidance. So I've heard a lot of folks having trouble with rock mining, some complaining that it's broken since the 3.14 patch, with the gem nodes like these behind me now having much lower signatures and only generating a return on pings at correspondingly lower ranges. So this is understandably causing a lot of frustration, particularly with an imminent wipe where a lot of keen miners are going to be losing their beloved moles and prospectors and will probably find themselves back in the seat of one of Greycat's finest. So with this in mind, I thought I'd do a breakdown of a scanning technique that should hopefully have you finding gems even quicker than before. So just a couple of bits before we get going. If you're just watching these videos to see if Star Citizen's cool enough for you, I'm probably not going to help because, as this video will show, I'm a massive nerd who's going to show you charts. But if I do, then consider using my referral code. I'll flash it up on screen just now. But the key thing is just make sure you use somebody's because you get some free cash and you'll help them out too. Also, if you're looking for a chilled out group to enjoy Star Citizen with, then please feel free to come and say hello on Discord. The link is just in the video description down below. So even activities like rock mining can be a lot more fun when you've got a friend. So one of you to handle the buggy, one of you to handle the ship, and nobody has to jump in and out of any seats unless you agree to change places. For this example, we're going to head to Daymar, which is currently one of my favourite rock mining spots. The scanning technique will work on any planet or moon where you find gems, but I just prefer Daymar for a number of reasons. Firstly, the topography is really nice, so it's got a lot of sort of flat spots, sand dunes, etc., which for getting sort of the ship that you're carrying the rock in down and landed and the rock in and out of it can just save you some time and make it a more pleasant experience. Also, speaking of pleasant, the weather here is quite nice. There might be the occasional dust storm, but you don't need to deal with the extreme hot or cold temperatures, so therefore you don't need any of the specialist armor, just a set of medium armor will do you. It's also got pretty decent density of Hadanite spawns. It's the Hadanite you really want to be going for. That's the most valuable of the 3 gems. Aberdeen is better, Ariel's probably a bit better for Hadanite. But Daymar is still perfectly good, and for the other reasons, that's why I'd prefer it overall. And for this I'm going to be using my trusty Cutlass Black, although I suppose it's a Cutlass White with this skin on it. But as we'll see, scanner size and power doesn't really matter, so feel free to use anything you can haul a rock around in. So your Nomad, or if you want to go bigger sort of constellations, even a 600i will be perfectly fine. So I've already found some gems in these hills just ahead of me, just so we can sort of look at the range they come up. So they're 974 meters away at the moment. I'm just going to back up slowly, just so we can test at what range they disappear off the scan. So 1100 meters, we're still okay. So we'll just back it up a little bit more. And we're just going to look for the point at which we can't detect them anymore. So 1200 meters, they're still appearing. But if we get towards sort of 1250, that's where when we release a ping, they're no longer detectable. So that's going to be quite a short range to work with. So this is roughly what's happening when we're letting off a 360-degree ping. So my cutty's the little X in the middle, and we're getting returns on Mineables within approximately 10 kilometers. So it could be a bit more or less depending on the size of ship and the size of scanner that you're using. But the problem is that an awful lot of these are the surface rocks that are mineable by the prospector or the mole, rather than the gems that we're looking for with the rock. So within this large circle of our total scanning range, there's actually this much smaller circle, which I've conservatively given a radius of 1.2 kilometers, within which we can detect the gem nodes due to their weaker signature. So I appreciate that this is not seeming like good news so far, because that is quite a small circle. But the good news is that they've increased the consistency that surface deposits show as such, sort of at longer distances. So now at about 5 kilometers away, you get the HUD icon like you can see off to the left of my crosshair. So that's clearly showing that that's a rock mineable by a prospector or a mole that we don't really want to pay any attention to. So we fly along nice and low, let off 360-degree pings every time it comes off cooldown, and we just ignore anything that's a longer distance away than 1.2 to 1.3 kilometers, and anything that's in close but has that rock HUD icon. So you just need to train your eyes to keep peeled for anything sort of close, and boom, that's 1.4 kilometers away, so that's a gem. So once you've got a hit, you need to stop scanning. If you've flown out of range by the time you ping again, then it will disappear from the HUD. So you need to just keep your eyes peeled for those sort of close signature returns, and then the moment you see one, stop pinging. However, finding gems is all about covering distance. So the more distance you cover, the more chances of finding something. So let's try again, but dialing up the speed. So just ignore all those returns 5, 7, 9k away. They're useless. Just keep letting out the pings as soon as it cools down. And when you first start doing this, it can seem a bit tricky. Sort of, you try to pick some numbers out from a jumbled mess of numbers. But actually, once you train your eyes a bit and relax your eyes, then you can do it at quite high speeds. So there we go. We've got a short distance ping. And just turn and burn the ship, so use your boost once you've got it round. Just make sure you don't hit that ping again. So you can even sort of drift out to like 2.5 kilometers away. It'll be fine. So we bring ourselves in nice and close to this one. And once you're within that 1.2k, you can always let out another ping to make sure you're heading in the right direction. Only one gem, so not exactly the haul of the century, and I'm pretty sure if I scan this it's going to be 0.11 mass, so that's a hand mineable, not a ROC mineable. But the important thing is that we managed to pretty quickly find another gem deposit. So let's just think a bit more about speed and scan coverage. So I calculated the scan cooldown time on my cutlass as 4 seconds. So if theoretically I could travel at 600 meters per second, like over on the right hand side, I'd still generally cover most of what's in my path. I'd travel 2,400 meters between scans, and the edges of my scan circles would touch. In reality, it'd be quite difficult to slow down from that velocity, and any delay on turning could lead me to missing the direction of the gems that I just spotted. Something about 300 meters per second, though, provides really good coverage, and you could push it a bit higher towards the 450 and still have decent cover. But the key mistake I think people are making is that they're going too slow. So if you're traveling at 100 meters per second, for example, you're repeatedly scanning the same area, and you're not actually covering very much ground. So maybe that's sort of why you're not finding so many gem deposits so quickly. And another thing which I did in the past was sort of setting my scan to 180 degrees, not 360. The idea behind this was that you focused on what was in front of you and you didn't get confused about the things behind you that you'd already scanned. But it's not so much of a problem now because the ranges are so much smaller that you're going to be changing direction less. So just fly in a straight line and let out those pings systematically. That way, because you're flying at a faster speed, you don't need to worry that something's behind you. You're just looking for any hit within that range. And I personally find sort of flying a bit above 300 meters per second, that's where I can comfortably sort of turn and burn the cutlass when I need to. But just experiment with it and find what's comfortable for you. Maybe start out a little bit slower while you just sort of get your eyes to adjust a bit to looking for the hits. But not too slow. And then ultimately, so you might find that you can dial it up a lot higher and cover more ground. So I genuinely find that once you get this down, you can actually be quicker at finding gems than in 3.13 and before. So if you remember, sometimes you'd get a return that seemed like it would be a gem cluster because it popped up on your scanner at like 2.5 kilometers with the old boxes that we had. But once you got in closer, it was actually a surface rock that showed up on your HUD. But now, because there's a clear gap between the ranges at which the HUD icons show, that's no longer something you have to worry about. So in fact, I think you can speed yourself up. So hopefully this helps you out. Just let me know down in the comments if it did. Like I said before, this vid was prompted by discussions with people in the comments and in Discord who were struggling with ROC mining since the changes. So I do read the comments, so I try and get back to as many as I can. Also, if you think I've earned it, please consider hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel for more tutorials, theory crafting, and general star sets and base shenanigans. And thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.